Hey, welcome back to this episode of Topless Talk. This is Nick here, and I have two beautiful guests. We have Krista and we have Dusty. So why don't you go ahead and give a little introduction as to who you are and where you're from.
My name is Dusty Wells, and I am from the Yuba Sutter area. Proud of it, and I have 3 children. I'm a mom, and basically that's it.
Fantastic. We're glad to have you here. All right, Krista.
My name's Krista Hayes, and I'm from Stockton, California. I have 2 children, a 10-year-old and a 1.5-year-old son. And now I live in Yuba Sutter area.
That's fantastic. All right. So we're glad to have you both here. So this is a rather interesting show that we have. So a little bit of background for our listeners that are new and also for you as well. So the idea of Topless Talk, where it all came from, is I used to go, I still do actually go sunbathing up in Bridgeport. Yeah, just so Bridgeport and Purdon and a couple other places, Oregon Creek. And when the summer ended, I mean, I loved it. Like it was like sunbathe. I meet all these beautiful people up there, a lot of beautiful women, topless. And so we have a lot of conversations. That's where Topless Talk came from. And then it got too cold. And I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do? The weather's like changing. And like, I'm the only one out there. No one else is showing up. And so I literally had this idea. I woke up one morning and I'm like, I'm going to have a Topless Talk show. I'm going to create my own environment here in town. And this is really what we've done. And so it's taken off, no pun intended here. Like, yeah, it's just been like, so this is where this came from. And I've been married for 13 years. I got 5 kids. And, the relationship for the longest time has kind of just been me kind of just like, oh, okay, I'm going to do whatever my wife wants me to do. And not really like a man in the relationship. And I've lost some weight. I've lost about 50 pounds. And I've like, all of a sudden, like my driver like shot up, and like all of a sudden my wife's like, well, who's this guy? And so as I've discovered myself going to the river, having this show, I'm like, you know what, this is a good show for me to go ahead and not only kind of share like my journey, but also to get input from other people who one, have different backgrounds and have a lot to share that I just don't even know about, because I was kind of like a recluse, if you would. Like I was like hiding out, like, oh, I don't do that very much. I got 5 kids. I'm kind of done, like.
Oh, okay.
And so for me, I'm like, I'm exploring stuff. And I realized that the more the show has gone out, there's a lot more men and women that are kind of in the same situation. They're like, oh my God, like, I thought I was the only one kind of feeling that way. And so then we have guests on here. They're like, oh, let me tell you how this really is, And so like, that's what we're here. With that, I kind of growing up, like I was until I got married. I was 28 when I got married.
Really?
I know. Look at your life. You're like,
so awesome.
So I get mixed reviews. Like, oh, that's awesome. I get some like, oh, you poor thing. You lost half your 20s.
Oh, that's all right. It's not good till about 32 anyway.
So there you go. Speaking from experience, I mean, like, well, so what was your guys' like, life growing up?
Well, growing up, I didn't have much of a sex life. When I lost my when I was 2 days after my 15th birthday.
Oh, okay.
To an older boyfriend, of course. He was 19 and I was, 15. It's crazy. But
right.
Up until I married my husband at 19, and it was on and cracking after that. He was older than I was.
Same person or a different person?
Different person.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So he was really experienced.
Right.
Knew, what was good and what wasn't. And I was more of a recluse also, because I was a heavier girl.
Yeah.
So I was kind of insecure. Didn't get a lot of experience up until I hit about 17. Then I lost some weight and bloomed, was feeling myself and started to enjoy, See, so I wanted to try everything.
That's amazing, because like what you experienced at 17 is what I'm experiencing at 41.
It's so fun, isn't it?
It is, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm so inexperienced. I'm like, I've only been with one woman ever, and I'm like, I don't know what I don't know. And so some of these guests come on and like, well, let me tell you, you should try this, you should do this, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go home and take some notes. We're gonna do this tonight, and come back and report. So it's like, that's what this show is really about. It's like how to, expand my horizon, but also to bless the lives of other people that are listening to the show. It's like, oh, this is something fantastic. I didn't know about that.
Huh. Well, that sounds fabulous.
Yeah. So how about you, Krista?
Good for that too. It teaches you wonderful.
You know what? I looked at porn, like I've been a addict. I wouldn't say addict. That's probably, harsh word. I mean, I've looked at porn ever since I was a kid, like 8 years old.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, like that's what I would do to satisfy like any urges I'd have. Like if my wife didn't want to with me, I'm like, oh, I'll go ahead and watch porn. But like that doesn't do it for me anymore. Like after you see like real women, like women on a screen or on a like, a book or whatever, just doesn't do it. Like after going to the river, I'm like, I can never go back to porn.
Right.
I'm like, I'm tainted. Sorry.
It got a little old for me too. My husband and I, we had our time with that.
Yeah.
And after so much of watching, bodies on the screen, you can't touch them, you can't have real fun with them. You know what I mean? So you're like, it's boring. It does get boring.
It does, yeah. And like it was, after a while for me, it was so fake. It was so contrived.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't real.
Yeah. I hate seeing all of their bodies all formed. You know what I mean? Like just so beyond stretched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of plastic surgery going on.
Yeah. I like the more natural.
Same here. That's why I love going to the river, because it's just, natural people. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting too, because I told a friend of mine that I was sunbathing, and she was just like, how do you do that and not have like an erection all day? I'm like,
I've wondered that myself.
It's not like that at all. It's completely different. Like, really? Well, I mean, you'd probably get run off the beach if that was the case. You're walking around with like, full on and like, hey, what's up, girls?
Yeah.
But like it's just like, it was just casual conversation, like just completely just natural, just, it was what it was. Like,
it's comfortable.
Comfortable. You're with beautiful people and you're just in nature. And like, that was the part that I missed the most. I was like, man, this was like awesome. Yeah. And so like, even here, like the shows that we have when women are topless, it's like, it's nothing at all. It's just like casual conversation.
Right.
See, I'd be the awkward person at the hot springs, like everybody's all naked and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd be the only one with a bathing suit on in the cold pool because I'm uncomfortable or insecure or whatever.
Well, I wouldn't let you.
But we all are in like some regard though.
Yeah.
I remember the very first time I actually went in the river, I had to make sure that I was completely alone, and like I was literally like looking in the bushes and like making sure no one was spying on me. Like I was so insecure, and then like after a while, the feeling of being free was so liberating that it like trumped any insecurity that I ever felt.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like I was like, screw this. I just went ahead and like walked out in the public, and like no one said anything. Like no one like covered their mouth and like, oh, look at that guy over there. Mm-hmm. Like it was totally just like
they were checking you out.
You think?
Well, they probably were. I'm a hot guy, so
yeah. That's the problem I would have. I would think that somebody was constantly staring at me. You know what I mean?
It's funny too, because like when you are like talking to people, like you don't stare at them. You take casual glances. I mean, that's the whole point of it and the fun of it. But like if you become like that person that's just like staring at or they're staring at you're just like, okay, it's uncomfortable.
Right.
There's a lot of weird people out there though.
There are. And it's weird though, because at the river, they don't do that. Those people stay away.
Yeah. Right. And at Bridgeport, I don't know if you've ever been there, but I went there a few times. And actually, when I was like 8 years old, my parents took me the first time. And it was just like you said, everybody's comfortable, everybody's open. There was other children there. I didn't expect that. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
There's tons of kids there where I go, yeah.
Yeah, because
oh, yeah.
It's a whole community.
It's a whole community.
Yeah, and they're comfortable.
Moms and dads. Yeah. Well, you got to think about it. Like, so some people, like, they don't like this idea, but like, we want to throw, God into it. Like, God sees everybody every day.
Right.
And he's not going crazy.
Right.
You were born that way. So.
Exactly. But no, it's really crazy because there are like, I mean, there are moms there with like 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds. One thing I never really did see though, is I never saw kids over 8 and between like 14 or 15.
Right. That's probably for a good reason.
I agree.
But, if I believe that if you take them when they're younger,
mm-hmm.
they grow up with a more open outlook on their body and on. I think that
I totally agree.
More confident with in their own skin.
It's kind of you're right with that. They're more comfortable with their own skin. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. So I'll share, 2 things here. So, the first time I ever saw my mom naked, like 2, I think, maybe even a little bit younger than that. And it left an impression on me. My mom is beautiful. Like she's just like a beautiful woman. And, I remember like walking in, I think my parents had just had or something. And my mom was like standing at the edge of the bed and my dad was admiring her. And I walked in and my parents were like, oh, and I'm like, oh, what's this all about, And my dad goes, come on in. Let me show you what a beautiful woman looks like. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is what a beautiful woman looks like. I think it's like the first time I actually like remember seeing my mom naked.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I'm like, oh, this is what a beautiful woman looks like. So I always had this idea of like, oh, a beautiful woman is like, my mom. So, and then I had friends, my next door neighbor, she was a little bit older than I was. And I'm like, hey, you want to play house? And she's like, yeah, sure. What do you do? I'm like, well, this is what we do. We lay on top of each other. And so we did this a couple of times. And then like one time my mom like walked in on and she's like, what the hell's going on here? She beat my ass,
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is what you do, right? And so like that was, that's the flip side of that. And the other side of it is, my wife and I now, we have, 5 kids and we walk around the house naked all the time. Our kids walk around. I mean, in fact, when I left today, my 4-year-old daughter was taking a shower with my wife. She's like, Mom, I'm coming with you. She's like, come on in, and our son, no, our son don't take showers with my wife, but but it's like, there's a very comfortable feeling, like no one closes the bathroom when we, the door when they go to the bathroom. It's just a very open family. And so there is this acceptance of our bodies and who we are.
That's good.
Yeah.
There needs to be more families like that. I think it'd be a lot less insecurities and restrictions on things. You know what I mean? If everybody was just open, and it's a natural thing.
It is natural. There's no shame in it.
Right. And it's us putting...
Let's hear this, Krista. What do you got?
Flip side to that, though. Like, if you have your kids too comfortable, like, not just with their family, but then they start getting comfortable with other people. And then, because... I don't know, my daughter, she wears like little dresses and stuff that doesn't cover everything. And she's like, why are all these guys looking at me, Mom? Why are they all staring at me? Well, maybe it's because you don't have pants on your butt hanging out. I don't know.
Well, and there is a line too. Like my wife goes, hey, you know what? We have a teenage daughter. She's like, what do you think? She thinks about, because my daughter knows that I have this show. It's a topless show. And my daughter's like, that's great. Most men like boobs. But my wife is like, well, now you told your daughter exactly how to get a guy. I'm like, well, it's pretty much true though. But the fact of the matter is if this is how she's going to get a guy, then she also needs to know the consequences of that kind of a guy too. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we're also, maybe a bit on the extreme side of it, but teaching, our daughter, like, hey, this is the reality of what it is. Because she's like, I want to wear a bikini. I'm like, okay, just know that guys are going to be attracted to your boobs.
Yeah.
And not really to who you are as a personality. She's like, well, that's okay, because I'd rather have them attracted to that than to find out that they may not like my personality. I'm like, okay, so we're starting to see the self-esteem issues happen here.
Right.
But she at least has a little bit of a figure that she can flaunt. And I told her, I'm like, look, when they invite you out on the boats, they're only hoping for one thing, that top flies off.
Right.
And so I'm like, I'm being real with her.
Yeah.
Probably more than a normal person would be, but I mean, this is the reality of life.
Yeah.
And so I want that to be the case. But you are right. You bring up a good point, Krista, because my neighbor, my son was like, hey, I'll show you my if you show me yours. And he's like 5-year-olds, this is, 5-year-olds kind of do that. But then he was like, I can't believe you let your son do that. And I'm like, we don't let him do that. That's just something that came out of his mouth.
Right.
So we had to, set boundaries because, you do need to make set boundaries for non-family situations.
Yeah, definitely.
See, most people are okay with like, oh, if my son takes a girl into the closet, it's okay. But if the girl takes the guy into the closet, oh, it's not okay.
Yeah, I think that all children are going to experiment and explore their bodies and their neighbors' bodies or their playmates' bodies. That's how they learn. That's how they, discover what they like and who they are. I think it's normal.
It is normal.
Healthy.
It's funny because you're talking about the going in the closet thing. So that's one thing I never did. I never got invited to those parties. I was kind of like a shy boy growing up. And so for New Year's, my daughter, she pulls out this like ketchup bottle, like like Heinz bottle. She's like, we're going to please spin the bottle. And I'm like, what? And so literally all 5 of my kids get in a circle and they're spinning it.
Oh, no.
And they're each other. And I'm just like,
how cute.
Well, you're getting plenty of practice here. But my oldest daughter is the one that instigated this when I'm like, man, dude, she's like already like just like waiting for it. Like she just wants to pounce on it. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm happy for her that she has a strong desire, but at the same time too, I'm like, all right, protect yourself too, because you're still pretty young.
Right. Definitely. Definitely needs to have, I'm sure you have had plenty of talks with her to make her aware that not all people have good intentions.
True.
That scares the life out of me, because I have 2 daughters myself and they are both knockouts, big, and beautiful long hair and just, everything I wish that I would have been. And it scares me because my youngest, she's 20 now.
Yeah.
And she's got a steady boyfriend, which is a good thing.
Good for her.
None of my daughters were really, had a lot of partners. You know, so they kind of stuck with 1 or 2. But it just scares the life out of me because my kids were so sheltered.
Right.
So when it came to that, yes, we were open about sex and open about our sexuality, but we didn't expose them to, the harmful things. We kind of kept them away from that and didn't really even talk much about that, and that's one thing that I do regret because they did develop early, and they had a lot of attention that
because of that development. Yeah, no, that's a thing too. I mean, so I'll just be real with you. Like as soon as you said you had beautiful daughters that were hot and they had big, I'm like, oh, when can they come on the show? I mean,
well, they may be interested.
Well, I'm just saying, like that's a typical man's response, you know, and like that's who I am too. Like I like that's why the show exists.
Right.
And I mean, there's no hiding that fact of it.
I like too.
Well, hey, I know, right? It's a cool thing. It's a fun thing.
Gotta have them.
Yes, definitely.
So
everything better.
They do. You know, I actually found this study. I told my wife, she's like, I don't know if I like this show as much as you think I do. And I'm like, I think you do. It makes me a lot more mellow and calm. And I pulled out this study that men who look at have like there's like this the serotonin or the drugs that like the endorphins that let like be released in your mind and stuff like that. That like it calms you. It's like a soothing effect. I'm like, it's just very soothing, honey. So I come home like very soothed and calm, you know.
Yeah. Like a Xanax.
It's like a Xanax, yeah. It's like, it's my...
Come on, babe, show me your... It'll help my mental health.
I gotta get a bumper sticker that says that. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
My boyfriend was telling me the same thing last night, and I thought he was so full of shit.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, what?
Did you show him?
Yeah, well,
Well,
yeah.
of course, good for you. You're a good girl.
But I don't like having my off. Like, we don't live, like, by ourselves. We live with his friends, so, like, I don't feel comfortable with
right,
just, like, my brother. So, you know.
Girl,
Yeah.
I just let him go.
If it was my own house, I would, but...
Us guys, like, we can, like, tell, like, when they're not wearing like, they hang differently and then, like, poke through the t-shirt and stuff like that. And, like, that's a huge turn on, too. So, yeah, like, if you're conscious about, you know, other guys, like, hey, bro, your girl's pretty hot, you know?
Yes, yeah, I don't want all that.
Yeah, you probably don't want that kind of attention and drama in the house.
Not for
Yeah.
him. Anyways, I like to make them all fantasize about my moves. I can't help it. It turns me on to turn them on. That's horrible, isn't it?
No, not at all. I mean, well, I mean, you got to think about this though too. And this has been a topic of conversation many times. Is how controlling women can be with their bodies, not in a like on purpose. It just happens that they're beautiful. I actually, you know, sometimes on purpose. They know they're beautiful, and they can use it to their benefit. They can get what they want.
Definitely.
Or they can withhold and get what they want too.
I don't know about the withholding thing. I never made it that far. My appetite is just as strong as any male. I already know that. So I would never withhold.
You're like, I can't do this. I can't go anymore.
Yes.
That's fun.
More like I think he withheld from me. What?
Are you deprived?
Yes, I am actually. No, I have no boyfriend now. I'm very deprived.
Oh man, well shoot.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, you can self-pleasure.
Let maybe. I don't like the whole thing. Yeah. All right.
There you go.
I'm holding you to that one.
Friends with benefits. There you are.
Don't worry, I'll make you dinner first.
Oh, okay.
Oh man, that's fun. You guys have been some great guests. Is there anything else you like want to share?
Go Blue.
Go. There you go.
That's about it. And thank you for your time.
No, yeah, it's been my pleasure. How about you, Krista?
I love being here, and I think it's great.
Awesome. Well, hey, we appreciate you all here, and this has been a fun episode of Topless Talk.